Good morning, Orod.
Hey Soma, good morning. How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How's the weather in Sydney?
Good.
Oh, that's
No-
good. We are in autumn. Autumn is the best season, at least in Melbourne. We have the most consistent and stable weather.
Oh, nice. I think Sydney is looking for its identity this year. So, it's trying to be summer, then autumn. So we have all the seasons.
All right. So, what is the topic for today?
Okay, very interesting topic because I believe I don't remember if we have spoken about it, but someone was asking if Kanban is appropriate for scaling. I mean,
Mhm.
do you think that Kanban is not going to be applicable to big teams or even when we are trying to scale in an organization? So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, now we definitely have a specific episode about how to scale Kanban, but I think because I'm sure people still not quite clear,
Mm.
definitely worth to spend some time and talk about it today. So when we talk about Kanban, Kanban can represent the work for any team. It can be a team include one person, we call it personal Kanban, or it can be one small team like a Scrum team, which is very common, probably the most common one. And it can represent the work for multiple team, a very large team, or even organization. So there is no limit to how to represent the work, but based on what we need,
Mhm.
we can go into different detail and different depth. So we can represent individual task, we can represent some user story, we can represent epic or project or program and all those kind of things in Canva.
Mhm. That's great. So, I mean, we did one with Dan, which because Dan is really much very
Mm,
much interested in scaling, and he did give us a lot of information. But what this person in particular was asking when we were chatting about Kanban is that, how Kanban, they believe that, Scrum team can be like 9 to 11 people.
mhm.
That's the recommended.
Yeah.
So they think that if it goes beyond that, Scrum can still apply, but Kanban cannot.
Mm,
Now, I would like to add something to that. And I remember when we were having a chat with Dan about scaling and also the service delivery principle. Kanban says that, it's always interconnection of different networks in an organization. And in a way, that is what scaling represent. So what you mentioned that Kanban can go up to any level. It doesn't have any limitation starting from individual to a team. And when we represent work in Kanban, it is actually doesn't matter how many number of people are in the team because we are representing work, the
mhm,
work stages, the dominant stages, the workflow. So I believe that is one of the things that people always feel that, maybe it's not going to work because we always think in terms of people,
mhm,
in how many people are there in the team. That's the first question that comes to our mind.
mhm.
When we visualize the work and the workflow and the work stages, the work is independent of how many people are doing that, if that makes sense.
It does, but I think there should be a direct relation between number of people and number of work. So when you have more people in the team, then it's likely that you have more work in the team. But
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree because multiple people can work on, one piece of work, right?
Yeah.
So back to Kanban principle, the service delivery that you also mentioned. So in Kanban, we don't talk about people necessarily. We are not managing people. We manage the work, right?
Hmm.
So again, there is a reason that Scrum and other framework and other people talk about the team size of the team and all those kind of things because When you
Mm.
have more people in a team, then you have more line of communication and it's exponentially grow.
Yeah.
But one of the main thing that I learned when I was study Kanban, and I want to give the credit to Todd Little, he mentioned that Kanban help you to do whatever you do, do it better.
Mm. That's right.
So if you have a very big team, for
Mm.
example, right,
Mm.
20, 30 people, whatever, right? Then start with visualizing all the work that it's in progress.
Mm.
Different stages, design your workflow, and then put the work on different stages, and then have a look at the board, right?
Mm.
We call it Kanban system, right? If it's too much, if it's difficult to manage, that
Mm.
doesn't do anything with Kanban.
Exactly.
Kanban does, it just show you how things happening in this team. If
Yeah.
it's too much, if it's difficult to manage, then maybe you need to break the team into smaller teams, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But having said that, breaking the team into smaller team with less people help these people to communicate better and manage the work easier and all those kind of things. But
Yeah.
it will cause dependency between teams.
That's
So we
right.
need to be mindful and aware and think about how we want to visualize the dependency because now you have two teams or three teams, and then you have three different Kanban board, and then
Mm.
there should be dependency between these works, right? So we need to be mindful of visualizing those dependencies.
Mm. And you're absolutely right. Like, because the Kanban board, the Kanban as a system, as a management method,
Mhm.
that is built or structured in a way that it can visualize and help you to identify the bottlenecks where
Or yeah,
those
bottlenecks or blockers or dependency or anything. Yes.
anything, right? Like, because bottlenecks sometimes can lead
Yeah,
to risk, or
exactly.
the dependency can lead to risk. So it will give you the information in a very loud way. If you if you know how to read
Yeah.
the Kanban code, it can tell you a lot about things. But
That's
again,
basically what, sorry to interrupt, but that's the whole point of Kanban, to show
Kanban.
you how how your system or team works. That's it.
Exactly. But now what you do with that information is totally up to the people who are
Exactly.
using or reading that information or the feedback. Because what you mentioned, yes, Kanban can tell you if the team is working well or not. If not, then you have to take the steps. But the question that was posted was, it will not work for bigger or larger teams. That
Mhm.
is not true, because it can work for every kind of team. Doesn't matter whether you are distributed or you are co-located, whether you are like part of from different countries,
Mhm.
because the reason is that it is going to always tell you the best way of like how your work is flowing through the system. It is giving you all
So I
those
think
information.
my answer to this question, that if someone said it doesn't work for large team, it doesn't work for this or that,
Hmm.
my first question is, have you tried or not? If they've tried and it didn't work, then we can have the conversation. But if they haven't tried, then it's just a hypothesis, right? So maybe people need to start trying and see if it works or not.
Hmm.
But as I said, it it's, to me, this is not a very valid statement because when we say it doesn't work, it's just too vague, right? So as I said, Kanban doesn't tell you what to do. It just show you how you do it now.
Yeah.
Then you can improve. If if you have some idea, you can improve it because you see that the work, for example, there are too many works, right? Or the work's been blocked for a very long time, or this person is waiting for another person for a very long time and stuff like that. Then it's up to you what you do to make it better, not Kanban. Kanban can't do anything about that, right? Kanban just show you your problem.
I can give you some example where things are not working and why people think that Kanban
Mhm.
wouldn't work. So let's say I'm giving you again very hypothetical situation. Can't say which organization this is
Yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah. You don't
So
need to tell the organization, but if you give the context, I think.
it's an ex a real example. So there is a team which actually works with 10 different teams. Okay.
Mhm.
So they need people or skill set from 10 different teams to get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their board, how they have structured their board is that whenever that individual pieces of work will come, they will call out people from 10 different teams, hey, where are you at? Now, when you look at that, it's really overwhelming when when they have all the things that needs to be done. And their board is more like task driven, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, because
Yep.
they have dependency on 10 different teams. So every story is very much task driven because all they care is that if the people are doing the work on time or not.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of that, when you go to the daily sync,
Mm-hmm.
what you do is that you filter out, like, the story and then the people's name, and then you start calling it out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you think about it, I can understand why they believe that Kanban wouldn't help, because the first thing that Kanban would be like, okay, let's empower the people. Let's try and find out instead of calling people individually, because there are like 50 people in that session, 50 people, like I can't call everyone. I would be more focused on the user story level, that hey, if this is, like, let's say in progress or in review, what's happening
Mm-hmm.
now? Maybe 50 people, they don't have to say things, like maybe one or two will be there like, hey, I'm blocked. The others are fine because there is nothing to call out, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that is okay. Not every day everyone needs to speak in that daily sync. But however, we are very much, by we, I mean like in
Yeah.
organization, people are more into the resource utilization, and I'm not going
Okay.
to call out about
So
any.
that's actually good. Now I understood a little bit better. Actually, that's exactly what Kanban does. So
Yes,
when you think that Kanban doesn't work, that means how you work has a problem, right? And that's basically what Kanban helps you to understand and identify. If you have 50 people and maybe 150 tasks on the board, right? That means the way that you're working is not right. And as you mentioned, one of the solution is rather than focus on individual tasks, focus on something that is more valuable to the customer or the business. You call
exactly.
it user story or whatever you want to call it. I don't mind,
Yeah.
right? Cabbage. That's what I normally use, right? So if you don't
Yes.
know, just call it cabbage. Okay. But cabbage has value to the business, right?
Yes.
And there are some activity or individual task needs to be done to
Mm.
make this valuable work to the customer, give it to the customer, right?
Yes.
Maybe we need to focus on a little bit high level, go a little bit high. So rather
Yes.
you have 150 tasks, then you probably have 50 cabbage, right?
Exactly.
Valuable work.
But I have a hypothesis there, or that this is
Mm,
what I was about to say, that it's not only what you use to manage your work, it's also the culture. So
mhm.
now I'm going to go back because Kanban can be very confronting for some organization. It is not going to dictate, it is going to empower, it is not
Yes.
going to focus on resource utilization. When you like think about it deeply, it could be really challenging to some people because it's not it's not bad or like good. It's about how they have been working for a very
Mhm,
long time. So
mhm.
when that way of working is challenged, when
Yes.
Kanban, focuses on the value
Yeah.
rather than who does what and how many, like, how many
Yeah.
hours you are spending,
Yeah,
that
I
is
understand.
very confronting. And
Yeah.
this is why I say that it's
Um,
not that Kanban is not going to work, but Kanban is definitely going to highlight that, look, this is not working. It's not only because what tool, what framework you are using, it's also because
mm,
culture that
yes.
you are, creating around you.
Exactly. So in our previous episode, we talk about task and some organization use task to track the progress rather than
Yeah.
workflow, right? So the question for this organization can be, what is the definition of task and what problem these tasks try to solve, right? So, for example, in my context, I had similar problems. So we had like 100 tasks, like 16 tasks for each user story and those kind of thing. And people actually start complaining. There are so many tasks, right? And
Mm.
then by enhancing the workflow, right? So when we actually visualize the workflow and show them, okay, this is how this cabbage work flow through the system, right? Then they, not me, then they said that, do we need task? Because when this cabbage user story, whatever which has value, when it moves, that means some activity happen. And that's part of our policies, right? So we can make our policies explicit, very clear to everyone that when this cabbage move from this stage to another stage, that means these activities that you used to call it task completed.
Completed, of
Huh?
course, yeah.
And again, that's fine. You can, under this cabbage, you can have individual tasks, right? 16 tasks or whatever, right? But
Yeah,
it's up to people to close it, then move it. So,
exactly.
so again, these tasks will represent your policy. It's part of your policies. So these tasks needs to be done, then this cabbage can go to the next stage. So either
Yeah.
you can create tasks, or you can say, okay, we don't want to create it. We just agreed, because we mature enough and we trust each other. So we know that when it's moved, that means these things done completely.
Mm, that's true. So that really answers the question. We also had an example to talk about that why we believe that it will work if we know how to apply it in the right context and what we shouldn't be doing. But that's really good. And thank you, Orod, for giving us the details about it.
Thanks, Soma, and I hope it helped people to have a little bit better understanding how to design and manage the work and Kanban system. All right, so I guess it's time to
Yeah.
wrap up. I think you already wrap it up and summarize what we discussed. So I hope it helped, and thanks for watching and listening. And we come back next week.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Orod.